Well, hello everyone. My name is Brian Stork. I'm a urologist. Some of you know me as a urologist and a beekeeper, but I'm so excited today because I'm here with my friend Carrie Uthe and my new friend Rachel McCoy, who's running the camera for us. And we're doing a Periscope about our community, and that's so cool. Carrie's been a friend of mine for a long time, and I'm so excited because Carrie saw a problem in our community and it bothered her, and she investigated a solution, and now she's got tons of people helping her do something really cool for Muskegon. So, Carrie, I'm just wondering if you can tell our Periscope viewers what the problem was that you saw.
Sure. Well, first, thank you very much for introducing me to Periscope and to come here today and chat with you about the problem that we had, and it still actually is going on itself, but I identified a few years ago I have some children with some special needs. I had a lot of medications in my medicine cabinet, didn't know what to do with them, didn't want to put them down the drain, didn't want to put them down in the toilet or in the garbage because it didn't feel right. You know, you don't know all the outside factors that plays into that at the time, but just something didn't seem correct about that. So I went to my local pharmacies and was asking if they would take them back, and by law they're not able to do so. I checked with my physicians, they had nowhere to go with this. And so I went to my boss and said, you know, is there something we can do? I work for a hospital system. There was nowhere there they could take it back either. And so she said for me, go ahead and investigate in it. And so with that being said, I started looking into it, talking with our hospital pharmacist, putting together a team, looking at it. Then I ended up meeting Laura Fitzpatrick from the Health Project. And she was actually working with law enforcement at the time and just starting down that path. And her and our paths just happened to cross. And I was doing an educational session for physicians regarding this topic at that time, and she happened to catch that session and came in and said, I think we can do this, because in order to do a medication take back, you need to have pharmacists and you need to have law enforcement involved. And so I brought the pharmacist, she brought the law enforcement, and look at us today. We have now collected over 10 tons of medication in 5 years.
So I just want to make sure that everybody heard that. 10 tons of medication have been taken back in Muskegon in the last 10 years. And you were just telling us, we just did a more formal video, you were just telling us in the first 4 hours when you launched this program, how much medication did you give back?
600 pounds.
600 pounds.
600 pounds. And the funniest story, and we still laugh every time we have an event, I had pharmacists, I had law enforcement, we had behavioral health folks that were sitting with us as we were kind of talking about this program and what it would look like. We weren't able to find anything locally that was what we were looking to try to accomplish on a take-back program. The closest one was like on the East Coast or in California, and really nothing around the area itself at the time. And so as we were sitting there, they're all like, yep, in fact we were in chairs like this, and they're like, yep, no one is going to bring back their pain medications, no one's going to bring back any medication. People like to hang on to these things. And I said, well, then I must be the only person in the world that wants to get rid of them, but I can't imagine that's the case. I go, can you guys just go with me on this journey and give it a try? So that's when we had our first event at the Norton Shores Fire Department. We had all our law enforcement, pharmacists, and quite a few other community collaboratives that were with us, and we had a line of cars for the full 4 hours that we did this program. And at the end, that's when our pharmacists were counting every single pill. But we did it by weight and classification, but we collected 600 pounds that day, and no one could believe it. No one could believe we even had lines of cars of people wanting to come in, and we weren't giving anything away either. There was no free TVs. There were no gimmicks whatsoever. It was just, if you have old medications in your cabinet, bring them over, we'll safely destroy them.
Well, I think it really speaks to the fact, even as a physician, I didn't know how to safely dispose of medications. And I'm embarrassed to say I didn't even know that you couldn't take medicines back to a pharmacy. I didn't know that our society had made it this complicated. And I think it speaks to the fact that there's lots of people like you who want to do the right thing and either didn't have the means of doing the right thing or the knowledge of doing the right thing. I was sharing with you earlier, I grew up on a farm, and my mom always told me, look, we have excess medicines, we flush them down the toilet. And that may have made sense living on the farm because it just went out into our own 100-acre field, and maybe it didn't have that kind of impact, but we live right next to Lake Michigan, and all of these medicines that get flushed down the toilet end up in Lake Michigan one way or another. And nobody knows exactly what the environmental effects of that are going to be on animals, fish or humans.
Actually, they do.
Huh?
There are studies on this, and it's real interesting. At Michigan State, and I believe a couple other schools have done this as well, where they've got controlled ponds. But actually, in our own environment, where medications are more heavily produced and they're drained from, like, say, their wastewater systems right into a lake or a stream, those fish are becoming like worms, where they are self-reproducing. But fish aren't able to self-reproduce, so that particular species is just dying off. Or they're having 4 eyes, and then there's actually video and there's images of these fish that are out there that you could see if you Google it, that are just deformed, and it's from the medications and the reproductive systems, because there's so much Viagra, there's so many birth controls now in our water streams, and yes, you'll have the person arguing with you that, well, that's not all from people with waste medication they're throwing down the drain or in the toilet, but what they say is an 80-20 rule. 80% is being excreted out, but 20% of it is being from people wasting it down or throwing it down, destroying it that way. But regardless, it's getting in our wastewater systems, and so it is changing the way our wildlife is. And they're actually finding studies now of how it's starting to impact us. And they've just done some recent studies in Lake Michigan, and where it was just outside the Navy Pier, where they just scooped a cup of water out just for the heck of it, because they didn't have money for a fund or a study, and could not believe the number of medications that were in the water in Lake Michigan itself. And so that's our largest drinking freshwater supply that there is. So that was real amazing. And one other really cool fact.
I love Carrie, because Carrie gets excited.
I can't believe how this really got me all passionate. But we were working with the Muskegon County wastewater facility, and they shared with us some statistics. With one of the other collaborators we were working with was Grand Valley Angus Water team. And so we're sitting around the table, and we had our PharmD, a few other folks that were there, and they handed us this report. And in this report, it shows the top 20 medications that they're seeing come through the water filtration but can't filter it out. Oh. And the very first one, and you're going to ask me what it is, and I don't know, but I can find out for you, was a medication, because our PharmD just set it down, and he looked at it and he goes, oh, this can't be right. Are you sure? And these were really recent reports that they had shared with us. And it's a medication that hasn't been prescribed in 20 years, but is continuously filtering. And that is one of the things that they're finding in our water filtration systems, is that it's not able to filter out, medication and other chemicals that we're putting down the drain itself. So being more aware and more cautious of what we're doing, it will be a very good thing for all of us.
Well, I totally agree. And what I didn't know until today is that Muskegon County is a pretty small county. Last I read 150,000 people. And the physicians in Muskegon County prescribed 600.
It was over 600,000 medications in 2011.
In 2011.
In 2011, we are running some new reports to see if we can pull up something more recent.
So those are scripts, right?
That's prescriptions that were written,
not
individual pills. Nope. And I like your analogy earlier when you said, if you think about 600,000 prescription, even if it was just one tablet, that's 600,000 tablets that we had prescribed if it was just one per prescription, which is not. Usually there's 30 in a prescription, or 60 or 90 days in one prescription. So that is quite a bit if you start to calculate that out. And that wasn't all of Muskegon. I mean, it wasn't every prescription either. That was a subset of data. And it also didn't consider folks who pay cash for their prescriptions. It was a way that they were able to, pull out that detailed information, who had insurance companies. Sure. So it's not even all of them.
So it's, we can say 600,000, we can say one pill, 600,000 pills, but until you go to this event and you see the lines of cars and you see the boxes, I mean, I couldn't believe the volume of medication that people were bringing in. So it's not one pill.
No.
I mean, people have been storing medications like this up for decades, right? Weren't you sort of alluding? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Don, who helped us shoot our formal video, was talking about you have some display.
I do. In fact, I was supposed to have it for today, but they forgot to bring it back with them. They're using it for the photo shoot that my bottles are actually being photoshopped right now, or photoshot at the moment. But we, especially early on in the program, we were getting these just very old medications that hadn't been prescribed since like the early 1900s. And these bottles, of course, are antique now, but they actually had medication still in them, or liquid or powder of some sort. And it was just incredible. And we, there was one, I think it's Dr. Sweeney's swamp root medication. It's for kidneys, and if you have problems with urinating and things of that nature, actually, you probably should get some for you. Hand out for patients. But yeah, it was just interesting in what people have in their basements, or maybe family members who maybe have passed on or just got boxes and didn't realize it, just moved them over. But most of them were people who that was their original box of stuff they just put down. They just took it out of the cabinet and didn't know what to do with it and put it down. We've had strychnine returned to us. We've had truth serum returned to us.
Wow.
And it didn't come from the Army either, because that's the first thing we all thought was somebody who was in the service. And our pharmacist at that time had shared with us some of the other effects that truth serum had that they could use it for.
Oh.
The strychnine was more so they were using it back on the farms, and that's how they were killing the rodent populations.
Wow.
But the ones we got actually were, I don't think it was for that purpose. I think it was someone got it from someone.
Yeah.
It looked almost like it's a box and it comes in vials. It was like one of those murder mystery movies. Yes. Well, I was told after that particular event I couldn't make brownies anymore at the office. So.
Well, let me ask Rachel. Rachel, does it look like people are tuning in, or does it look like there's any interest in the discussion that we're having?
Oh, absolutely. We actually just had a listener ask the question, what kind of medications do you typically see at these take-back events? Are they typically illegal drugs, or what is your most popular medication that you see people bringing in?
Great question. First of all, we have no question asked policy. So anybody who comes to our events, you can bring anything back, and there is no way for us to trace it, follow you, stop you in that event. So we always like to have people understand that we don't ask any questions. And there's no way for us, and everything is secure and safe as well too. But for the question you asked, we do non-controls, we do over-the-counter medication, and controlled substances. So if you have an asthma medicine, or if you have a Norco, you have the fentanyl patches, Viagra, birth control, we take medicated shampoos back. You know, it's anything that you have that's been prescribed or over-the-counter, we take back at the events themselves. And we also take back sharps, new and used.
So just tell me, I'm just curious, how much sharp volume do you see? Do you see like boxes of sharps too?
Yeah, we do. I think this last event we just had on September 26th, we collected, I think it was either 500 or 700 pounds of sharps. Yeah, it is just unbelievable what's in homes, and we have a fairly high diabetic population in this community as well. Yeah. So they have nowhere to go. And it's been very helpful, because when we started, we took the Sharps program over from the health department. They were no longer able to offer it. Oh. So we picked up as part of ours. And I was able to connect with a vendor who actually safely destroys those. Oh. And he doesn't charge us, which is great. So Hospital Network Services has been wonderful for us. They're actually down in Kalamazoo. Oh. But law enforcement, and actually our landfill, that's one of the reasons how we got connected with our landfill folks here in Muskegon County, is because they don't like seeing the sharps come back. It actually hurts their workers. Right. It hurts their equipment. Law enforcement doesn't like it, so if they have to go out and do a search for something, if, say, they're looking for evidence and they have to start digging through, that is something that there's a hazardous issue right there for them. So they're pleased to see that not coming back. I mean, granted, there's still some coming, but there's people still throwing in their garbage. But a big section of it's now coming back to our program.
I think one of the most interesting things for me is just how the medications and sharps that we provide, as a physician, we sort of write the script and we don't think about it again. But there's so much to this whole...
it has a life in between.
Yeah.
It's like a life cycle, honestly. Right. And that's what we've been told by our pharmacists and other physicians who, when I initially, approach someone and say, "Can you help me?" and they're like, "Well," like we've talked before, when physicians are very, very busy. And so, and basically what I just say is how much we've actually destroyed, and usually they're like, "What?" And then you don't want to say to someone that this is your responsibility, but a lot of our physicians have come back and said, this is our responsibility. We are the ones writing the script for this. We need to think about what we're doing, at that time, because usually by that time to end the appointment, it's getting to the end and everybody's trying to hurry. They just want to make sure the patient's happy, their needs are met. But now they're taking a look at it from a whole nother perspective, and how do you delicately balance the patient's need with making sure there's no waste at the end. Yeah. So that's been a nice hearsay from what I've heard from our physicians, as we've done more education through this process.
Well, are there any other questions?
I have one question, Carrie. What is being done to prevent medication and to promote medication disposal in Muskegon County between the take-back events?
We have a Facebook account. Mm-hmm. And it's Muskegon Area Medication Disposal Program, and we do have a website, MAMDP.com, that we will post information out there. We'll be getting better with it thanks to Rachel's coming help here.
Rachel's our social media guru.
Social media guru,
right,
we've collaborated with, and she'll be helping us out with that and improving our process. We do have flyers that we do distribute throughout. So when we're not having a take back event, we do put out flyers where people can return them at our daily take back program through our 7 pharmacies and our 11 law enforcement drop box. So that way people don't have to wait, because I honestly, after the